what we care about is what's good for the people that we represent. Representative Rinaldi is aware of that. He's going to go down to Austin and do a fantastic job. This is one of the most articulate and thoughtful conservative minds in the House. I look forward to working with him. I think he's got a great future ahead of him. He's going to be a fine leader for his movement and for the movement conservatives. But in the end, what he cares about, like me, is making sure that our children and his children will be able to have places where they can go to school in good situations and have strong economies and have good jobs, and that's what we're going to do.
And let me ask you both, because I had you both on the show day before yesterday, or whatever it was. And for Matt, when I had Jason on, we talked a little bit about compromise, which is either a vital part of governing or a horrible, dreadful word. I mean, the C word. Do you ever? So there's been a lot of Speaker Strauss under the spotlight, because he is the speaker and there's more of a spotlight. Let me ask you to hit the crystal ball and take me into a Turner speakership, and then I'll have Jason comment on that or anything that he would like to. Do you envision the Scott Turner speaker style to be no compromise ever? You got to compromise sometimes, or in view of the mood that seems to be behind some of his support, it's people who don't want to compromise much. You have to sometimes.
Well, I think first of all, you always find common ground, and common ground is different from compromise. You work towards what you agree on. Compromise is good when you advance the ball in your general direction, not when you're moving it backwards. So you need to look at each compromise individually, or suggested compromise. But I ask you, when you have a 2/3 Republican majority, almost all of whom campaigned on the same issues, the gridlock isn't being caused by a lack of compromise, it's being caused by a lack of following those principles. And I just want... One quick thing I want to point out, which hasn't been brought up yet tonight, with the Strauss-led House. The Strauss-led House hasn't only not been implementing conservative legislation, it has been enabling and passing Democrat legislation, okay? With most of the Republican Party shut out of the decision-making process. Mark Jones from Rice University did a study showing the win rates for every representative. The percentage of time each representative was on the winning side of a vote, okay? The median Democrat win rate was 94%, Republican was 84%. That wasn't the shocking part, okay? The lowest Democrat win rate was 88%, lowest Republican win rate was 34%. Still not the most shocking part. Most shocking part was 2/3 of the Republican Party was on the losing side of more votes than every single Democrat in the Texas House. That tells you what legislation is coming to the floor, what legislation is being passed, and it's being passed with a small sliver of leadership joining with the Democrats to pass legislation that the Democrats like. I don't like a Texas House where Lon Burnham, who's to the left of Obama, is happier with the vote more times than Jonathan Stickland.
That's right.
Mr. Will.
My good friend, Representative-elect Rinaldi, is trained as an erudite litigator. He's capable of advancing ideas in a way that might not otherwise be advanced. I'm a simple business lawyer. I deal with facts and figures. I'm an economist by trade.
Unfrozen caveman lawyer.
Unfrozen caveman lawyer. The study that you referred to, and Mark Jones from Rice is a wonderful man. He's very smart. I enjoy speaking with him a lot. But in the end, if you look again at the statistics, there are 63% of us who are Republicans in the Texas House. Last year, if you look at the primary author of a bill that was authored by a Republican, you would find we passed 67% of our bills, and the Democrats only 33%. Now you have two other classes of authorship, and I don't want to get too deep into the weeds because folks don't care about procedure. You've got a joint author and you've got a co-author. Joint authors and co-authors can only join a bill in the event that the primary author allows them to do that. It's often done for political purposes. You want some Democrat cover here, you want some Tea Party cover here. You bring people on as joints and co's in order to get their ability, or to get their constituencies for a vote. So what ends up happening is if you add in those joint authors and co-authors, which Mr. Jones did, and which Hard Hatter's analysis did, you would see that they have a greater percentage. But if you look at their methodology, they didn't do the inverse. So they don't give Republicans credit for bills where they sit on let's say, a joint authorship or a co-authorship for a Democrat bill, and they give the rights to Democrats. They don't give credit for Republicans. If you look at it again, 67% of the primary author bills were authored by Republicans, which only have 63%. Republicans control the House, and again, it's subject to the leadership of Speaker Joe Straus. Now, let's talk a little bit quickly, because I didn't get to answer your first question, about my good friend, Scott Turner. Now, let me just tell you again, Scott Turner, if you've ever met him, charismatic, he's a leader. He's got great vision, he's articulate. All these things are true. I'll tell you a quick story. Take me off the clock for a minute.
Stories are always.
It's a good story.
We'll get Matt's story here in a minute. One
day we were on the floor, and one of our friends from the other side of the political aisle brought in her pastor for a day, who was not a pastor at all. He did not speak the language that we speak. He got up there, that being the religious language, and he gave an homage to greatness and sunshine and beauty and rainbows and all that. And we finished it, and there wasn't a single reference to God or Jesus Christ or my Savior. And I was so upset by that. I immediately marched over to Scott Turner's desk, and I said, Scott, you got to help me. He's like, what's wrong, Jason? I said, I just finished the beginning of this session, and I didn't get a prayer to my Savior. He's like, I said, Scott, will you pray for us? Because if you've ever heard Scott pray, you know it's serious. So he laid hands on us. It was me and Jeff Leach, and I think Stick was over there. And we all stood around, and we had a prayer on our own on the side that he gave for us, and it was magnificent. When Scott speaks, it's pretty impressive. And we finished that day, and we had a great day in that session. It was because of Scott Turner. So I've got nothing negative to say about him. But what I'll say is this. Look, there are a lot of good people in the House of Representatives. Matt, it's going to be a good one. We've had some good members. There are a lot of really smart folks, just like Matt, going to be there. That doesn't mean they're right to lead this House in trying in complex times. My good friend, Representative Turner, has a session under his belt, and that's going to be a good experience for him if he manages to get this. But in the end, he has not evidenced the ability to command the respect of the other side and get those votes. Giovanni Caprioloni, I know many folks are probably upset with him, said himself, he's like, Scott's just not prepared for this role. And while I love Representative Turner, I just don't believe he's ready to step into this a very significant role where he's going to have to reach across the aisle, and I know this word's a bad word in this room, in compromise and bipartisanship fashion with the other side in order to get things done. Because we have to get things done, friends, and that's what this is about, getting things done.
All right, Matt, I bet Matt has
Can I have a story?
I bet you got a story. Let me weave your story into the following question. Because
I'm going to do it. Well,
okay, you go ahead and then I'll give it to you.
Once upon a time, not too long ago, somebody was in a debate, and he was trying to refute a study that made his candidate for speaker look very bad. And he gave an answer that refuted a different study. That's right. And then tried to deflect the attention from that with a story that was very long. The study you talked about was the Hardhatter study that dealt with authorship. The study I'm talking about with win rates just took every single vote and took every time a representative was on the winning side of any vote. Didn't deal with authors, which is a valid point on that Hardhatter study. It is a valid point on the Hardhatter study. It's not the best study. The Jones study dealt with win rates, which means that yes, Lon Burnham was on the winning side of an issue more than Representative Stickland and 2/3 of your reelected Republican representatives.
Which is a superb time to ask what is essentially a horse race question, and I have a few minutes here to take some wonderful ones we've gotten from the audience. This came up a lot in the Boehner thing. The discontent over Boehner, the discontent over Strauss, seems loud and numerous. The objective alien from space looking at this and saying, is this likely to happen, is that the odds are really, really long at a change in speaker actually happening. If we've got all these 2/3 conservative majorities, and Texas is so incredibly, at this election, I mean, my gosh, Greg Abbott, Dan Patrick, Ken Paxton, who's in office already, we're a redder state than we were we're heading in the right direction. So, why ain't this a closer race? Why is this a great long shot?
Is this to me?
Yes.
I mean, we see with our frustration with the U.S. House that it's hard. It's hard to get our representatives sometimes to vote in accordance with what the grassroots wants. I mean, it truly is. Plus, your representatives who are supporting Scott Turner, like Representative Stickland in the audience, they're putting themselves out there. They won't get the best committee assignments. They won't get preferential treatment in the House. It's a brave road to take, and it's a tough road to take, and sometimes people will only do it if they see the clear path to victory. Well, let me tell you what, there's a lot more support for Scott Turner and a lot more sentiment against the leadership than you see on the surface. I told you about what the results were in the House in terms of win rates, in terms of Democrats being empowered and passing more legislation than Republicans with help of a minority of the Republican Party. People see that. The members see that, okay? Strauss has less support than you see in the media, and it's because the representatives see that. But I think Scott Turner will get more votes than have announced now on the day when we announce our votes. Because in the end, people know how you feel. People know that you're passionate about this and you see the importance of the vote. And in the end, you guys bring about change. You guys make us vote in accordance with your wishes.
Here's one to let you on that, and then we'll go to some audience questions for our last 10 minutes. Go ahead.
In answer to your question, why are the numbers not different? And the answer is quite simple. It's because our constituents are telling us that they agree with the leadership role that we're seeing. No. In this room, you can tell me no, but I've knocked on 1,000 doors, I've received 10,000 phone calls, and I can tell you how we've registered those calls is they agree with the strongest economy in the country. They agree with the strongest abortion laws in the country. They agree with voter identification laws that are the strongest in the country. They agree with water. They agree with transportation. They agree with tort reform. They agree with the issues that matter most to Texans. They agree with expanding charter schools. They agree with doing the kinds of things that are important for our families. And they will talk to me and they will talk to Representative Rinaldi in order to get the leadership that they want. They want a Reagan-esque, pragmatic leader, and they're going to get it from Speaker Strauss. It's the bottom line.
Oh, man. Go ahead.
Look, you've heard me talk on and on about Representative Turner. Good man. 75 Republicans have already pledged to Speaker Strauss. All of the Democrats have pledged to Speaker Strauss. Of the remaining 25 Republicans, of the 25 remaining Republicans, half of those are going to go to Speaker Strauss. You're looking at 12, maybe 15 votes tops. And I know that there's a great need for a debate on this issue. But in the end, this race is over.
No, it isn't.
It is over. It is.
Not until the
You're over. Here's what we should do then. Here's what we should do.
And you're over.
We should
Don't make me come out there.
Let's come back after the vote and let's look at the vote and then we'll digest that.
All right, the audience clearly wants in.
Let me say publicly right now. And let me say publicly right now, because I hear this a lot from people in audiences on the web. I plead with you. I plead with you right now, publicly. Bring me an opponent. Bring me an opponent next time. I ask you to do that. And you know why? You know why? Because democracy demands a contest of the ideas. I'm asking you to bring somebody that you think is better than me, and let's let the people of my district decide. Thank you.
Is it possible? Let me we've got a couple of these on the cards here. We've got about 7 or 8 minutes. I think we're all good on time. But we've got a lot of good questions. In fact, let me go to one on a specific issue. I want to know if there would be a Scott Turner, Joe Strauss difference on what the House would do in terms of expansion of Medicaid under Obamacare.
You want to ask?
Jump ball, whoever you want. Back to it.
Want me to go ahead?
Yep.
Yeah, there would. I mean, Scott Turner has said that he would not expand Medicaid under Obamacare. He's opposed to implementing Obamacare exchanges. The Speaker of the House in leadership last session attempted to pass a bill expanding Medicaid under Obamacare. They tried very hard to do it, and they were in support of it. There was an article in the San Antonio paper last session about Joe Straus's support for Medicaid expansion. They actually did pass a bill that expanded Medicaid under Obamacare. Then it was reconsidered after some representatives saw what leadership did in slipping it through. So yes, there is a difference. Medicaid will not be expanded under Scott Turner's speakership.
It's curious, I was the one who voted first to oppose Obamacare. Again, the blogs that you read will say, I'm in favor of Obamacare. I was the member who was going around to the House and saying, look guys, you just voted in the wrong direction. We got to flip our votes. And ultimately the vote went down to kill the expansion of Obamacare. You'll see under a Strauss-led House in the 2015 session that we will again brush back any attempt to expand Obamacare or Medicaid. I know that the governor has talked briefly about looking at a Texas solution. I think that might be something that we can consider, but Obamacare is off the table. It's not something that even what you would deem to be rhinos like me would be in favor of for. So I will be opposing it. I know Matt will be opposing it. You won't see expansion of Obamacare under the Texas House this session.
An audience card says, it asks both of you to have this debate 2 years from now as we go into the very next session and look back and tell us what your guy did that was so great.
I'm in.
So what would be, if it's 2 years from now, looking at the ground ahead, what would you say if we're sitting here, at the beginning of 2017, about to inaugurate a Republican president? Just saying. If our spirits are even higher than they are now because of that, retroactively,
Hopefully the future first father sitting in
there you go. What will we, there you go. What will we look back on predictably, and what will Speaker Turner have done that you'll say was his shining accomplishment? Well, your sort of speaker, whoever goes first. Take your guy.
Matt said I could go first on this one, so I'll defer to him. Speaker Strauss will have again led a session that resulted in results for the great state of Texas. You will see a transportation bill that will come forward that will look an awful lot like what Governor Abbott has talked about. You will see the franchise tax being scaled back, if not completely eliminated. In the next session, you're going to see immigration reform that will include a voter ID and perhaps even rolling back or adjusting the Texas DREAM Act. In Texas, you're going to see additional resources that will be going to immigration protection to protect our border. Border security is preeminent in the minds of both Lieutenant Governor-elect Patrick and Speaker Strauss. You will see that our economy will continue to grow and grow healthy because we have planned for some lean times. Look, we've got to be very serious and prudent about the months ahead and the years ahead. As oil and gas begins to fall, we've got some issues. It's time to tighten that belt. I mean, if ever there was a time for being fiscally conservative, this is it. We have money in the coffers today, but in 2 years, I think it's going to be much tighter. I think under Speaker Strauss, you're going to see that kind of the kind of leadership that we need to plan and prepare for that circumstance.
Matt, tell me the story of 2 years of Scott Turner as Speaker.
I think if Scott Turner as Speaker combined with our conservative governor and conservative lieutenant governor and conservative Senate, you will see the greatest group of bills pass through our legislature, conservative bills that you will have ever seen in any state in the country. I think we have an opportunity with Scott Turner to show the country that our ideas work, that promoting limited government and individual liberty works. Specifically, I think you're going to see a constitutional amendment pass in a Turner speakership that limits spending to inflation plus population growth, preventing future growth in government, 2/3 vote to bust the spending cap, elimination of the franchise tax, 4/5 vote, a constitutional amendment requiring a 4/5 vote to raise taxes. I think you will see school choice, real school choice, that allows money to flow to the public-private homeschool of his or her choice. I think you will see real immigration reform that not only secures the border, but eliminates the magnets that bring illegal immigrants into the state. And I think you will see another great pro-life bill. Unlike the current speaker that considers life not a big issue, Scott Turner does, and you'll see a piece of pro-life legislation pass the Texas House next session.
On a school night with the temperature dropping at virtually every minute, to get everybody out on time, let us do our 2 minutes each to close in our prior event coin flip. Jason, you get to go first.
Well, let me thank you, Mark, for running, just a fantastic conversation. Thank you again, Representative Rinaldi.
Pleasure, Grace.
And thank you, audience, for coming out tonight. It's cold, and we do have school tomorrow. And look, I know this room doesn't agree with a lot of what I have to say. I understand that. And I want to say that people like me who might not necessarily agree with you, we understand your frustration. We understand the concern that you have when you see the state moving right, but you don't feel like you're getting represented properly in the House. And I want to just let you know, look, Representative Rinaldi is coming to the rescue. You've got good people like Representative Stickland, one of my good friends in the House, going to be there for you as well. But people like me too believe in these issues. And Representative Strauss, or Speaker Strauss, I know you don't believe this, I know you don't agree with this, but he's going to be there to provide progressive or forward-looking.
Time out for the Freudians. What's
progressive and forward-looking and solutions-oriented leadership. And look, that's something that's important for Texas. Look, I don't know why progressive is a bad word. As a majority, give me a chance.
I know what you mean.
As a person who believes that we are here in Austin to help the state move forward, I believe it's important that we do that. And I think it's important that we let leaders like Speaker Strauss move forward with the kind of leadership that I know will benefit the great state of Texas, will benefit my children and the people that I represent. So thank you for your time tonight, and thank you for listening to what we have to say.
Lying in wait for that one. Progressive as in making progress. We all get it. We're just having fun here. And 2 minutes, Matt, they're yours.
I want to thank Mark again for doing this. I really do appreciate it. I want to thank Representative Villalba, who is really great for coming out here. But I think he did a great job, and I appreciate him having the discussion. It's important. Some see Republicans on stage with differing opinions, and they see disunity. They saw disunity in March and disunity in November. I saw unity in both those elections, and I saw a unity in message of the Republican Party. Every Republican campaigned on smaller government, strict constitutional spending limits, life, Second Amendment, immigration enforcement, school choice. I saw this throughout the Republican Party. We all campaigned on the same issues. And we won overwhelmingly on those issues. But now some people after the election want to create a party and see unity in a party that just passes a budget and goes home and doesn't pay attention to these principles, okay? That party's a fantasy. It doesn't exist. Meanwhile, we have all of these great grassroots people here in the audience, the people who couldn't make it. We're eager to help our GOP leaders. We're eager to help our leaders pass the platform that they campaigned on. That's the route to unity. Do what we said we were going to do. Let me tell you, this window's closing, okay? If Texas ever does have if we ever do have a blue Texas in our future, we have a small window. We've already wasted 6 years. We have an opportunity right now to do historic things, not only for Texas, but for those watching all over the country, looking for us to set an example. And that's why I'm supporting Scott Turner for Texas House, is because he realizes that and will bring us into a new future. And by the way, I just want to point out, a lot of people have said to me, you're being brave by supporting Scott. It's a tough decision to make. It's not. This is the easiest decision I've ever made.
And this was one of the easiest gigs I ever accepted. I went out back for a Sprite at one point. I just asked Scott, can you join me in showing some love for these magnificent men up here? Thank you, guys.
And thank all of you for coming. And God bless Texas. And I'll see you on the radio tomorrow.